Okay. Everyone happy with that? Okay.
We can go live, right? There's nothing on my side. Refresh.
I love this picture up on the screen because it brings back a lot of very vivid memories of my childhood. Feeding the ducks with my
That's the link that's on the.
who passed away a few years ago. I remember walking up the channel that's the overflow to the dam and falling, putting my chin open and being rushed to hospital. I remember being chased by swans when there were swans around the Sondal dam. And one of the realest memories is my father in a scuba suit fishing a motorized boat out of the bottom of the dam that my cousin had lost. It's an area that I care a lot about. It was a privilege to be able to buy a house here a few years ago. And this is one of the reasons for the initiative. I want to be able to put back into the area what it's given me. I care a lot about it. I care a lot about how I want it, as you all do. And that's always a big factor in the CID establishment. We all, I think, are on the same team. We all want to live in a nice neighborhood. None of us want to pay too much to achieve that. We all want equitability. So, why are we here? We have to present a draft business plan. We have to get community comments on that draft business plan. We are here to hear everyone's voice. There are people in favor of the initiative and there are people against it. Everyone has the right to their opinion. We all have our own here, your pitches that are. We are here to hear your thoughts, your opinions. And so we ask everyone to be respectful of each other. Whether you're for or against the city, we want to be respectful and mindful. We will, of course, as a state, committed to our best to do the same. Ultimately, this will come down to a community vote. It will not be easy to get that vote. 60% of the community has to vote in favor of this for it to pass. And it's not 60% of the people who bothered to vote. It's 60% of the total community. So if you factor in 10% of people probably just bothered to vote because they don't read the emails or see the WhatsApps. It's more like a 70%, which is a significant margin. Therefore, those that are in favour, we urge you to tell people your opinions. Those who are against, of course, the path to the same. Bit of a timeline. So today is really the kick-off of the meeting. The purpose is to share information, to tell the community as much as we can about this initiative and to answer questions. This is not really the platform for debate today. That would take too much time. The second public meeting, which follows a 30-day comment period after this meeting, where we will get feedback on the draft business plan from the community that we will incorporate potentially updates in the business plan. The second meeting we can use as a platform to debate. After the second meeting, the voting will start. So we expect us to take place in the second half or the first half of next year. There'll be plenty of time before the voting starts for everyone to have their say, to discuss it, to provide us with written questions and expect answers. So I feel everyone will be informed by the time the voting commences. We are very committed to making sure that everyone is comfortable, that they have all the information that they need to make a decision that impacts their property on the area. Steering committee, I felt the need to include this slide because we received emails questioning about the steering committee saying we're in it for themselves. They need to launch a campaign to get themselves big salaries. And really, it can't be much farther from the truth. It's cost the steering committee a lot of money to put this together. Personally, I could go ahead, maybe in the school hall, live streaming. not to mention countless hours time spent. The people in the steering committee are people like myself who basically paid for almost all of the sector H CCTV cameras. It's guys like Job, who has been involved in installing over 100 cameras in the area. It's guys like Lawrence, who active in Sondal, Neighbouring Watch, Louise, whose husband is a patroller. Louise has been the driving force behind this, which we're thankful for. None of us have any financial incentive for this to go through. We're doing this purely because we think it is a good thing to do, and it will be good for the community. Ultimately, that is for you to decide and for you to judge. But you can rest assured that none of us have anything personal to gain. None of us, once this is established, will get any remuneration for any services. We won't be refunded anything that we spend to get it there. Why was the process started? It's really a case of there being programs in the background to help the security of the area, such as the neighbourhood watches, such as the camera initiatives, which a very small number of people support. It's hard to describe the amount of time it takes just to keep the camera network running. Technical issues, someone's router home isn't working, one of us to go out and try to problem solve it, get our UPS running again. It's trimming branches to not obstruct the view. It's reviewing footage after an incident. It's looking at alerts. The patroller network gives up the 4 hours of their sleep time at night, midnight to 3 a.m. shifts, training, they're putting themselves in harm's way when they approach vagrants in the area. All of that damage that could occur from them damaging cars or that sort of thing falls on them. They can't recoup anything. If they assaulted, it's their medical aid that has to pay for it. These very few people are supporting a lot of the security in the neighborhood, getting nothing in return, and the number of volunteers is just dwindling. Soon, many of us will probably walk away and just abandon these projects. It's too time consuming. It takes too much out of us, and very few of the community are assisting with even donations, not to mention time. Another issue that is coming is legislative changes around privacy cameras with open networks like we have now. That's going to be something where operators of the network will have personal liability, which again, for volunteers getting nothing in return, it's not worth it. The city can have a much more robust framework that is legislatively acceptable. The last thing we want is a safety network that is helping the community to fall away. We have enjoyed a really good neighborhood. We have enjoyed relatively low levels of crime. It is resting on the back of things that are happening in the background, and those things are not sustainable anymore. It won't be long until it disappears altogether. We want to suggest a much more preventative, proactive approach to security than the reactive approach that is followed now. At the moment, there's an incident, we hear about it after the incident, we review footage, and it's too late to actually stop what happened. When you think about your own security, which most people say, I don't need a set, I've got my own security. By the time your alarm kicks in, someone's already on your property. CCTV, you know a video of someone on your property, but they were still on your property. On response, I don't know the last time you had a false alarm, how long it took them to come to your house. Very long, an hour, 2 hours. Not enough time to make it, not quickly enough to make a difference. One of the big reasons that I funded the Sector H camera initiative was because I realized that by the time my other security measures have kicked in, it's too late. I've actually lost either someone is on my property stealing someone or something, or I need to actually defend myself and my family. I realized that I'd pay a fortune to undo time if something was to happen to my family. I really think that we need to move to a preventative set where there is actual 24 hours, 24/7 monitoring of cameras where patrollers can respond. The on-response companies that were very grateful are giving free services to us by responding on WhatsApps, patrolling the area every now and then, which is really just driving through. They're doing that for marketing. They're not paying for that. They've got no prerogative or requirement to be helping with public safety. They love responding to WhatsApps because it's good marketing. If you see Guardia or CTF or any of the other banks come up regularly, you might be more inclined to change your mind response provider. But they're not there for public safety and they're not there to prevent someone getting to your home, even though there's something of course. One of the first steps when initiating a SIP process is urban management survey. About 400 people responded to the urban management survey in the area. That's about 20% of the 2,000 neighborhoods. The questionnaire was sent out by email to all residents and also public in the Tygerberg advertisement. The outcome of that, more than half know or are a victim of crime in the area. Interesting is that 86% of people have spent money upgrading their security. We're not talking about just installing security. They took an actual step because they realized the crime was increasing. They needed to spend more money upgrading. I calculated what the CCTV installation at my house is in terms of SIT rates, and it's about 10 years worth of SIT contributions that I would have made just to pay off my CCTV. I'd much rather spend this money on a SIT and not install a CCTV camera network at my home. 85% are concerned about homeless loitering, which is very well founded, and we'll get to some statistics later. 40% don't consider the security in the area to be good. That means that either the person to the left or right of you probably doesn't feel safe in their neighborhood, doesn't feel safe walking around at night, doesn't feel safe walking alone. The initial goal, and I will agree that this is not representative of the whole. There's some response bias in these statistics because the people that bothered to fill out the questionnaire probably were more in favor of SIT than against. But 8% initially said that they don't support the SIT at all, 14% are neutral, 78% said they would support the initiative. It's a pretty good statistic in favor. It's enough for us to say the process is worth it. It's worth looking at, it's worth following the process. If that number came in at 40%, we probably would have just abandoned it. But we found a pretty good indication from the community that they wanted us to pursue this further. How does the SIT work? This is going to be a very broad explanation. We'll get into some of the more intricate details a bit later in the presentation. A geographically defined area. So they'll SIT boundaries, everything within that boundary is considered part of the SIT area. An additional rate is charged from a municipal account. It's recovered from the owners by the City of Cape Town. That's paid over to a non-profit company. That non-profit company, which is semi-independent of the City of Cape Town, will use that money to further the objectives in the business plan in accordance with the approved budgets. It's a community-driven initiative, so that means that the residents have the power over the non-profit company, the residents are the voting members of the non-profit company. It's not something the City of Cape Town is taking control of the additional rights that you are paid. It's you that decides what budgets get approved, it's you that decides what initiatives and what projects are spent on, or that we will spend money on. These are the values of the SIT, which are written in the business plan. The one thing I would like to point out is on the right-hand side, you'll see that the Kalazova green area is included. We had a very good question on the Sondal community chat this morning about why that is. What's the point? Why are we spending money there? We don't expect to spend money there. We're not going to be building parks, building pathways. The reason is that other SITs that have established told us that it was a big mistake that they made not to include corridors like that in their set boundaries. The reason being that they then don't have control over it in the sense if there are squatters, if there's crime, they have no prerogative to act. We do see homeless people sitting on camp in that area. We do see fires being started. We wanted the ability that if something like that was taking place, if there was illegal structures being erected, that we would have the prerogative and the ability to take action. We expect to employ a law enforcement agent as part of the SIT, and that person has the ability to search and seize, to make arrests if warranted, of course, and to issue fines or other measures. That's the reason why that's being included. The other areas form one continuous network. On the one area that's labeled terminal and goes up to a boundary of the Durban will sit, which is also a process underway currently. On the other side is Stellenberg sit boundaries. So we are seeing in the Greater Cape Town area a significant push to establish this. In green, you will see the currently established and operating sets. There's 51 of them. In red is the ones like ours where the process is underway currently. It's a very popular approach being taken in many areas. Some of these are industrial, some of these are residential, some of them are mixed. The great thing that someone told me the other day is that only one sit in Cape Town has been closed down since the sit process was started in Cape Town. Every 5 years, the sit needs to be essentially re-established. It's an indication that where the sits are, the community is voting to continue with it. The ones that failed very early, it had almost no budget. So I feel like that was an anomaly in and of itself. If you look at Vereenkloof, where I lived before and after it became a sit, and it really was one of the big reasons why I'm pushing for the Sondal sit, because I saw it made a massive difference. That's been renewed now for the third time, so going into the 11th to 15th year. It's very close to us, so if you want to see what a sit can do, take a drive. It's not going to take you more than 10 minutes to drive through the area and see what's being done there and the kind of improvements that they've made. So structure, so this gets a bit complicated, but bear with me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a non-profit company will be incorporated, so that falls under the Companies Act of South Africa, all the legislation and protections that the Companies Act offers. The board of directors is to be appointed. They're appointed by the members of the MPC, which are the residents. So any resident can apply to be a member, there's no cost, there's no liability. You then have a say at the annual general meeting, you have the ability to choose which directors oversee the sit. That could be someone like myself, members of the steering committee, or it doesn't have to be any of us. It's really up to the community to decide whether they trust to exercise oversight. There's a board observer that the City of Cape Town also puts semi on the board, so they're not a voting director, but they are there to ensure that public money is being spent appropriately, that the legal frameworks of the SIP policies and the SIP bylaws are being adhered to in order to ensure that everything is above board and clean. Funding comes, as I mentioned earlier, from additional rights. It's an additional right that's added to the municipal account that then gets paid to the City of Cape Town, and the City of Cape Town monthly pays that to the SIP and operates according to the approved budget. The budget of the community approved. Service manager, so we'll go into a bit more detail later. This is operational person or company that takes charge of implementing the budget and implementing the budget plan. So that's either an employee that is employed by the SIT or a company that is contracted by the SIT to perform all of the functions on the ground. So the directors are in a purely oversight role, reviewing contracts, ensuring that proper procurement practices are followed, but the actual day-to-day legwork is being done by a service manager. Service providers will, of course, be subcontracted to do certain parts of the work, and the service manager will handle that process for the directors and board approval. Just a quick schematic here, so you can see the interaction between City and Cape Town and the community members is essentially financial. It's the receipt and debt management. Between City and Cape Town and the SIT is a lot of paperwork and oversight and approvals and ensuring compliance. The City of Cape Town has a SIT department with a number of full-time SIT employees that manage this process. Between the SIT and the community is the mandate that you've given us to implement the approved plan and the approved budget, and your involvement in the annual general meetings and ability to vote on matters. A few common misconceptions that I'd like to go through. So these are based on a lot of the queries that we receive by email. The one thing is that this won't replace the whole response. We are talking about public safety here and not private safety. The SIT is not going to respond to your alarm going off unless there is indications of violence or something taking place. They're not going to get a trigger when your alarm goes off and go out to your home. The purpose of the security is to prevent people getting to your home and once on their property. It is your prerogative and your requirement on your insurance contractors to have on response. Estates, we rightfully get a lot of queries about what is the point for people living in estates to have the security budget to have a SIT when they are safe at home. Again, that goes about public safety versus private safety. Public safety, we want you to be able to carefree go for a run, go for a jog around the dam. We want your kids to be able to explore the area, go fishing, not be harassed. We don't want vagrants urinating on trees in the dam, which I have seen too many times. Or especially the jail that you live in. You still want to be able to go out and enjoy life. And that is what the security part of the budget is trying to offer. City of Cape Town doesn't manage the funds. It's managed by the non-profit company with their board, with a service manager. City of Cape Town doesn't have a say in how the money is spent, other than ensuring that the money is spent on legal things and within the framework. And this is the question we get most often is why we're replacing with the municipality. Why don't we get the municipality to do the work? The city is about providing additional services. Municipality's only role is to provide basic services. So we're talking water, electricity, sanitation, refuse removal. We are not trying to replace those functions. We also don't want to do any work that the City of Cape Town is meant to do. We don't want to waste money on it. We're also residents in the area. There are rules within the SIT policy that actually prohibit the SIT from doing work that the city is doing. I think it's clause 36 in the SIT policy, where urban maintenance first needs to be discussed with the SIT before a program is followed, because we don't want to be dumping up the work. They still need to mow the lawns the prescribed number of times a year. They're still responsible for fixing potholes, all of that. What we want to do is propose additional services that makes the area nicer. We are very blessed with great green belts. We can improve these, we can improve the facilities. Public safety, that's national government to a great extent. We can argue that the police should be doing a better job, and I agree. But living in that bubble of denial is not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to get us safer. We have the national government we have the police we have. We should do this in our power to help us safely. There's no probability ever of there being a policeman dedicated to patrolling our streets in our suburb. This is never going to happen. And that is why we are proposing patrols, 24/7 CCTV monitoring. That is additional. That's not something that you would or could expect the municipality to offer. We'll get into all the different benefits that we expect to get out of the SIT. These are all things above and beyond what the municipality is required to do. The municipality is required to provide basic services to a standard that is equitable to the city as a whole. They're not expecting to give us much more than another suburb. If we want that, then we should do it. And that's up to you to decide if we want it or we don't want it. Budget breakdown. So I've spoken a lot about public safety. This is the aggregate of the 5-year spending. 53% is on public safety, and we'll get into those initiatives. 13% is environmental development. 12% is management. It's a bit lower than some other SIDs, even though we are quite a large SID. The percentage is a bit smaller. Urban maintenance and cleansing is about a tenth. 8% general expenditure is in line with other SIDs that we've seen. Social economic development is 4%. I'm going to go through each of these categories now to explain what we're proposing. The area around us is changing. If you've lived here for a long time, 30 years, you will know how small Durban was back then, how small Brackenfell was. We're all becoming much more in the city. The area is expanding around us at a very rapid pace. One can't expect the quiet neighborhood that we've always had to remain quiet. It will change over time. The pace of change is probably only going to increase. If we want to be safe in our neighborhoods and if we want to keep enjoying it and not have deterioration, we need to be eternally vigilant. And we have a number of propositions to achieve that. We've been asked for crime stats, so here they are. About 1 crime per day in the neighborhood. We received these stats from the SAPS to the Community Policing Forum. 1 per day averages in South Africa, every household every 6 years would be a victim of a crime. I'm taking broad generalizations here from the statistics. Bear with me. If we look at one of the smallest stats here, fatal women universal heights, 30 on average. It's a fairly small area as well. That's what the numbers lower. I wanted to give an idea of some of the crimes that are included in that figure. I live in Caledon Road. In the last roughly 2 years, within about 100 meters of me, we had 5 crimes that I know of. The neighbor to my right was held at gunpoint in their home, tied up, forced to open safes, car stolen. The neighbor to my left, the house was entered while they were sleeping, the entire family was there. 2 or 3 doors down, handyman was away, they broke into his house, stole everything, bed sheets, literally everything they owned. Another house on the corner, broken through the roof, emptied the house again. Just the other day, the house was broken into in broad daylight, laptops, space stations, that sort of thing. So that's 5 of the 30 crimes. I think you can agree that those are pretty serious crimes, the majority of them. These are not small things. I've got a WhatsApp today that I'd also like to read. To give you an indication of incidents for the past week, reported to SAPS and not reported, within the Kendall neighborhood watch borders, 1 theft of motor vehicle, 1 bicycle stolen, 1 cell phone stolen from vehicle, 1 laptop stolen, 1 attempted house breaking, resident disturbed the suspect. Only 3 of those are reported to SAPS, so probably these statistics are a bit light. I'm not sure what an acceptable level of crime is for anyone here. That's up to you to decide. We do know that there are people that are very vocal about being crime-free, which I don't think it is. Crimes that happen very close to my home, I find them quite serious. I don't want to be held at gunpoint. I don't want everything I've bought ever stolen. I don't want to surprise a burglar in my home. It's very close to home. I don't know who of you will decide which of your neighbours it's okay for to be broken into and which not. I think we all should be aiming for very low levels of crime. We're obviously never going to get to zero. And we are not trying to sell that we will get to zero. We are saying that we want to make a concerted effort to bring crime down a lot. Fairclough had a massive reduction in crime when they, since they initiated the SIP, and that's what we want to see happen here. I don't think any crime, I don't think any person entering a home is an okay level of crime. I lived overseas for about 4 years, and what really struck me is how conditioned when it comes to crime in South Africa. It took both and I a really long time to acclimatize to being safe. And it's silly things that one realizes. It's when we're in for swim on the beach, every 10 minutes we'd be looking, or not every 10 minutes, every few minutes we'd be looking, is our stuff still safe on the beach? When we go for buffet, it was quite funny because we are very used to somebody staying behind at the table with the stuff when everyone goes to eat. That's normal for us, we don't even think about it. The reality is that true safety, I don't think any of us have really experienced. Some people here would have lived offshore and maybe had that experience. I lived in an area which I felt was completely safe. And it really was a game changer. I really want that for everyone here to experience that. I grew up riding my bike around the neighborhood here late at night, no cell phone, and it was fine. Families are no longer prepared to accept that risk. And I think that's an indication that crime is a bit worse than we think. When crimes are occurring in the neighborhood or shared on the WhatsApp groups, we get told you're fear-mongering, you're scaring people. Please don't do that. Now we're being told there's no crime. It's a bit difficult because we can't win. We don't want everyone here to live in fear during an incident occurring, but I've just read to you a few days worth of things happening. I don't think any of those you would choose for yourself. This is an indication of the nightly activity. So this is the number of birds we get at night in this area, excluding Valmary Park, which is quite big. There's a big camera network, so about 1,000 movements a month between the hours of 10 p.m. to 5 p.m. when really the area should be dead quiet. These are human detections, so I'm not talking about cars running past. A lot is happening at night, everyone is sleeping, the patrollers see it, helping people out there. It's not as quiet in the neighborhood as you think at night. Once you start looking at the birds, you realize there's stuff going on that we really don't see. Okay, so what do we propose? It's fairly simple really, but quite extensive. We have a current network of about 115 cameras in the area. We want to expand this to 200 through the SIP. We want to have a 24/7 control room that monitors the camera alerts, sees what's going on, and then 2 patrol vehicles with patrollers that are able to respond to those alerts. We don't want patrollers just aimlessly driving around the area using our fuel that costs them a lot of money. That's why we want to invest in an intelligence system where we can immediately respond to something happening or people entering the area. Part of how we achieve that is to reduce the length of our perimeters, so that's why we have a budget for fencing. It helps us to narrow where human movement is to certain areas where we can put a camera and see what's going in and out and reacting to that. So the budget at the moment includes a fence along the Regatta between Bethany and Aldermap, which is quite a large open area, and again, the fields at Fair Trees next to Mandakleen. So we will have gates in those fences for there to be movement during the day, but at night the civil lock those up between specified late hours to reduce the entry and exit from the area. Another initiative that has been launched at other SITs that we've had a really positive response about is park wardens. So these are really dual purpose employees. Their primary purpose is looking after the green areas, so trimming branches, cleaning litter, planting trees, looking after the nature areas and making sure it's beautiful, doing some weed control. But they're also really good eyes and ears on the ground in our busiest areas in our community. If migrants are loitering, they can phone the security on the radio and get them moved out of the area. if anything suspicious is happening, they're able to report that. Lastly, and I alluded to this earlier, a beat officer. So the City of Cape Town actually subsidizes the law enforcement officer that we can employ as part of the SID, so 5 days a week during business hours, and they have a lot of powers that normal SID security won't have. So the ability to issue warnings and fines and that sort of thing, and prevent homeless people from settling in, for example, the council corridor. These are pretty comprehensive measures. We'd like as many patrollers as possible, of course. 2 is a pretty good number for our area. It was between 2 and 3 in the steering committee, but just adding 1 patrol vehicle is a significant cost. And we did consider these people living in the States in making this decision to reduce it to 2 instead. We do understand that people living in the States don't want to be spending a fortune on security when they already do. We felt that bringing it down to 2 was a reasonable level for this and being mindful of everyone's situation and being able to still give value for money to all. Environmental development, so this is one of the things that I'm most excited about. We all spend quite a lot of time, or the majority of us do, around the dam, going for walks, going for runs, walking our dogs, cycling, playing with our kids. And I had a quick look, drive around today, and there's two swings, I think, at the bottom dam, and 2 Balmoral Park, 3 are broken. The weeds are waist high. If you took your kid there, you'd probably lose them in the vegetation. The dams are overrun with weeds. It wasn't like that when I grew up. It was grass. Some of you might remember that. We really like to improve those areas. It's something that we all enjoy, and it's something that adds a heck of a lot of value to the community. So we've dedicated about 10% of our budget to this. Part of it is connecting walkways, so the City of Cape Town is quite good, and we've seen a lot of additional walkways being added to the area. The long-term goal is that we have a nice track running all the way, almost from Fair Trees up to Mulberry Park with pathways. So the City of Cape Town invests quite a bit in that, and we'll work with them to maybe just connect a few routes. So we budgeted for like 400 meters of additional walkway, and we'll see how to best use that. The green spaces, so we budgeted for 75 trees, 16 benches, and 10 tables with benches on slabs. I don't know when last you've seen what the benches look like at the dam at the moment, but they're all a bit hobbled and lying sideways, not very comfortable to sit on. So we'd like to spend money improving those facilities, adding a few more benches around the play box. The play box especially we'd like to do more weed control, so we obviously won't be able to get rid of all the weeds in the Sondal. But when the kids are playing, we don't want them playing around in thorns, and it would be nice to have some grass there. So that's where we expect to spend most of the vegetation budget around the dams and around the parks, including that fairground. Lastly, something that came out of the management survey was the need for cycle track for children. I think people were building sort of makeshift tracks without permission in other places where they're not supposed to, and we'd like to build a proper, well thought out, well placed track for children. I think this would be a nice addition to everyone's family life in the area. Cleansing, so this slide and the next one sort of fall in the same category. 10% of the budget goes to a kiabaki with 4 workers. They go around the area and essentially do a large number of small things, if I can put it that way. So litter removal, cutting grass, for example, now might be a good time to cut grass around the playgrounds. I'm not proposing all fields to be cut, but just so that people can continue to enjoy the activities even when it's spring and everything's growing quickly. We don't have much illegal dumping, but when that occurs, it can be something that can be cleaned up. The bus stops give I'm sure seeing vagrants living in the bus stops, taking all the garbage. People with taxis tend to not use the bins. Cleaning up around that, installing bins, and cleaning them regularly. Bins as well for people who walk their dogs to get rid of waste. And then road reserves, trimming around road bridges, essentially everything that we can to get a more neat and tidy area that looks more beautiful, really sure to make the area more desirable. It's one of those cases where it's not only one thing that we can all point to and say, well, looks terrible, this is a horrible thing that's to sort it out, but many, many small little things can really contribute to how well-rounded an area is. The same team will be involved in what we call urban maintenance. So this is where we can put a lot of pressure on the city of Cape Town to deliver services. Instead of us driving past the pothole 30 or 40 times before we bother to report it, this will be a team that's on the ground that can immediately report the pothole to city, that can report a road bridge that's destroyed or a sewer cover that's been stolen. The objective here is, again, not to do the city of Cape Town's work, but we can work with them, and the city manager can put a lot of pressure on the city of Cape Town to deliver the services that they're supposed to. It also comes back to plate box. When 3 or 4 swings are broken, the city can either just quickly fix it. In most cases, it's not doing any hard work, but they can also just report it to the city of Cape Town. If any urgent needs arise, let's say a pothole that's in a very key motorway that's damaging people's wheels, the city can go and fix that pothole immediately instead of waiting for the city of Cape Town to do it. But again, the objective is not to do the city of Cape Town's work. It just gives us the ability to more quickly react to things happening in our neighborhood. Social development, so this is quite a small, high impact part of the budget, so 4% will be essentially donated to NGOs. So the main ones would be CAN and MES. CAN is the group that has done all the vegetation in the middle Manikis on Durban Road and traffic circles. So we propose to donate money to them. A lot of that money will be used in the area around us, so it filters back again to the community. MES is involved in a lot of the cleanups that you'll see on WhatsApp. So again, donations to MES to further those objectives. Earlier I talked about options for managing a sit. So there's 2 options really. The one is to hire an employee, a full-time employee of the sit, that must fulfill all of the SIT's operational requirements. Now, the SIT's requirements are very diverse. It is operational, like approvals of where to put a fence, to financial, dealing with employees, dealing with labor law, filing VAT returns, preparing your financial statements, going through audit. There's very few people that possess all the requirements to do a job like that well. A asset management company tends to work with various teams that have a lot of expertise in a wide range of different things. So you're working with 5 or 6 experts in their field instead of one person who's a master of none. We believe that using a asset management company is the way to go for Sondal. We are a very large asset. We have a number of programs that we expect to do. We have a number of projects. We will really benefit, I think, from using a asset management company to fulfill those with the wealth of experience. They have lots of mistakes that have already been made and learned from. And another benefit is relocation to a asset management company. Our asset manager, who might be an employee, goes on vacation for a while, then things might go to a standstill for those few weeks. It's a management company, has a lot of economies of scale, which we'll get into shortly. And so we proposed in our draft business plan to use a asset management company, and we've outlined the reasons in our draft business plan. Again, the community can comment on this. We've laid out, I think, what the two options are. If you strongly feel that you prefer a dedicated employee, then feel free to send us an email, comment on this. This is just a suggestion that we've made. I'm going to invite now Jean to do a quick talk. So Jean is part of a asset management company that operates 13 SITs. It's not to say that ISIT will use Jean's company, but he has a lot of experience, and we'd like him to share some of the benefits as well to provide some information to you about how asset management company works and what the benefits thereof are. One of the SITs that they manage is Tiger Valley SIT. I think that's the closest one to us. Thanks, Jean.
Julian, I'm going to get you for this one. I don't expect you to stand in front of people tonight, but anyway, good evening, everybody. As you can hear, I'm from a asset management company. I'm not professing that we're the best or that we are the be-all and end-all, and so I'm not going to try and market what we do. Julian asked me to just mention a few things. One is the popularity of residential SITs. I've been involved in SITs from the year 2000 when we did the Central City Improvement District in Cape Town. And for quite a few years, most of the SITs were focused around the commercial and industrial areas. And one of the reasons for that was that we believe that people in residential areas felt that once that security gate goes closed and the electrical fence goes on and the alarm is on and the beams are active, then you're done. And you don't need that security of a commercial or industrial area to actually secure your neighborhood. And more we have seen that people actually are starting to get out of it that way, retake their neighborhoods and their public spaces back. They actually want to run, they want to cycle, they want to walk, they want their children to be able to feel safe in their environment. And so the popularity of SITs in residential areas has grown to such an extent that I think that most of the SITs that are currently under establishment are actually residential SITs. And it was quite interesting for me, having been involved in the industry now for 24 years, to see the growth of residential SITs in places like Outland, Clifton, Camps Bay, etc. So all of those areas are actually pursuing residential SITs for the very reasons that I have just shown you. Then one of the things I want to add is that we, for instance, manage the Wynberg Improvement District, and the Wynberg Improvement District has gone through its fourth iteration of expanding its boundaries now. And although it initially was a commercial SIT to start off, all three the expansions have actually been for the residential neighborhoods in its vicinity to actually join. We've just ended up joining another 600 residential entities to the Wynberg Improvement District. I'm happy to share their sentiments with you, just to demonstrate what people experience. I just want to quickly touch on two other things. One, they asked me just to speak about what, other than the things that have already been mentioned, why sometimes a SIT management company works. And this is me simply sharing with you my business model. It's nothing of a secret, but you have SITs in Cape Town that have a budget of 106 million, believe it or not. And you have SITs in Cape Town that have a budget of 380,000 for the year. You can see how widely different those different budgets are. But the funny thing is that the property owner in the residential SIT with a budget of R1 million wants exactly the same results as the business owner in a commercial area with a budget of 25 million. They still want the public space to be safe, they still want it to be clean, and they still want everything to be well maintained. And the only reason why a company like mine exists, and I'm definitely not even going to mention the name, is simply to say that in some areas, you don't need everything all of the time. If you're in a big industrial set, you might need, let's say, lawnmowers and grass cutters every single day in order to keep up with the grass cuts. But in a small residential set or an area with not too much grass, you don't need those tools every day if you want access to it. And by able to share those resources amongst a number of sets, the actual cost of owning and operating that equipment and having that availability reduces. And that's just one of the benefits of having a management company, and for the fact that all of those bits of pieces of equipment and so forth is available when you need it. And the same goes for the control room. When you have a control room that actually offers or services more than one city improvement district, the synergy is unbelievable. And we have found that we were blessed with the fact that we have all of these areas in one control room, and as crime and potential crime or any incident moves from one area to another, we're actually able to jump and proactively act against those threats. And that's another benefit when you have an economy of scale. So I think those are the most important parts. One of the things that I can say that I've heard a lot this evening is the issue around a community WhatsApp group, or several for that matter. And I can tell you now that our community groups are extremely busy. And when I say extremely busy, if you've got certain sets and you've got thousands of property owners within those sets, and businesses and their employees, you can imagine the amount of influx of information that they get. But it's also one of our biggest advantages, because using our continuous control room coverage of 24/7, 365, we're able to react to those WhatsApp and community interactions basically immediately. And this is one of the things that a lot of people say, what is the benefit of a set? And I can tell you this now, one of the biggest benefits is that people actually listen and react. Because a lot of times people feel that they are entering a number or a complaint into a system and getting a reference number, and you never know where you are. And with the personalized service that a city improvement district brings, whether it's a group of employees or a management company, it really doesn't matter. But the reality is that there's that personal interaction, and somebody that actually knows your neighborhood and actually takes care and actually wants to improve it. I don't know if there's anything else that I should have added. I think that's fine, and I won't take all of your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. The slide everyone is here for, I think, what will it cost? So we're looking at a sit rate of roughly 110 Rand per million Rand of property value, so that's after that. Discounted for inflation to today, that's about 100 Rand per million. We are fortunate that most of the property values in our area fall within quite a small margin. It increases equitability. There are obviously a number of property owners on the higher end of the scale in our area, especially here in the state, where most of the properties are 8 million plus. But for the vast majority, 75% of our residents will be spending less than 400 Rand a month on this. You will see the band between 300 and 400 is almost 60%. Non-residential sits, we did have a question about this because it's not mentioned in much detail in our business plan. Non-residential properties will also pay a sit rate. It's 45% higher than the residential sit. We're talking guest houses and schools, other non-residential. We're not talking churches and cemeteries, which are exempt. Non-residential is only about 3% of the property value in the area, so it's not a significant chunk, but they do have a significant impact on the area. So you can imagine that there is much more traffic for non-residential property than for a residential one. They're also able to claim the VAT back in most cases, so that reduces that 45% extra accountability. It's not the prettiest slide, but it's a capital way we put this in. I wanted to put this right in a bit of perspective. And when I put it in perspective, I don't need to reduce its significance. I just want to create a framework. If one looks at this as something that helps to protect your property value by ensuring that crime is at a manageable level and ensuring that the area stays desirable and that there's demand for property. And you compare that to car insurance where you pay 20 times more per rand per year to protect that value, then this rate seems fairly reasonable. Also, if one compares it to your property price growth rate in the area, so that's roughly 7% for the last couple of years, you've got 69 times of the gain you keep 1 year you give to the city. I'm quite sure that this will add more property value than it costs. So I think, yes, it is a cash outflow every month, and I don't mean to minimize that. But I do think that in the long term, you will get that money back, and you will get more of it back than you put in. The SID rate is only about 1% of the total growth that you get every year on the value of your property through inflation. We're getting very close to the end. I just wanted to sort of sum up the key aims that we had when setting out this draft business plan. The one is obviously protecting your family. This is the one that's most important to me. I want to be able to tell my wife that I've done everything in my power to keep her safe. It's also about keeping the others around you safe, making sure that you can go out and enjoy the area with as few qualms as possible. We do live in a very nice, very desirable area, and I want to keep it that way. Things don't tend to improve with time in South Africa unless you work at it. They tend to deteriorate. I don't think there's any reason to believe that our area will, in and of itself, improve over time if we don't do something about it. As I mentioned earlier, we are becoming all the more inner city for Durbanville as it expands outward to Sondal, as it expands outward to Pacific, as Black expands, we're becoming more and more center. And with that, there's much more traffic coming past, there's more foot movement. It's going to be more and more difficult to keep up with crime rates. And lastly, we all want to have a say. I'm sure you've all felt that you are being significant time for certain things and not being heard and nothing's happening. I feel, as you mentioned, the groups are active. If you raise something, it's going to be dealt with quickly. Someone's going to take an interest. You're going to have some power over the area that you live in, and not just leave it for other people to decide for you. Just a few goals details related to Q&A. So the business plan is available on our website. You're also welcome to see a printed copy at the Durbanville Public Library. A few people have already gone to the library to read through it. Interested parties register, so everyone is automatically an interested party. That just means you've got skin in the game if you're a resident. Other people who are consider themselves interested parties are welcome to add themselves to the register to be taken into consideration. Next step will be the second public meeting, so we expect that to happen in March. After the public meeting, if there's no material adjustments to the business plan following comments, the voting will start. So there's quite a bit of time until that commences, but that's the next step. One of the things that we need for the SID is office and depot space. So that's somewhere where the SID manager or the area, the person that will be on the ground most of the day, as opposed to sit answer emails, answer calls, that sort of thing, meet with residents if they need to be met with, and also where some of the cleaners are able to store some of the things that will be out, that sort of thing. That should be within the boundaries. So if anyone who knows of a sort of semi-commercial space, please get in touch with us. We'd like to get some more details and see if that's an option. Okay, this is how you comment. So up to 30 November, so that's just more than 30 days from now, you can submit comments to us over email. We will evaluate each comment and criticism and suggestion and how that might impact the business plan. A revised business plan can then be submitted following everyone's comments for the second public meeting. You're also more than welcome to send us questions on the email address. It does take us a few days to reply, a lot of jobs, but we do get back to you on as much detail as we can. Lastly, we have a contact preferences form at the link there. If you could please fill that out if you haven't, it helps us get an idea of whether you want to get regular email updates or not. And you're also able to submit comments on that form if you wish to. That's the last slide. So we're going to be going into Q&A next. As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, the purpose of this is to be able to get information across as efficiently as possible. This is us submitting the draft business plan for comment. So we want to keep this focused on answering questions and giving information. I know there's lots of people that want to debate this, and I'm very happy to debate it as well. That's more for the second public meeting where they can give focus. So I'm going to ask that we stick to questions on the business plan, on the SIP process. More than happy to answer those questions. We don't really want to take too much time getting stuck into debates about security and that sort of thing. Of course, you have the right to have those opinions and to voice them. And we're happy to discuss that with you. And if there's people that want a platform at the second public meeting to address the audience, we can facilitate that as well. So feel free to get in touch. So I'll start Q&A in just 2 minutes or so. I think there's some people that might not want to be here for Q&A. Gives you opportunity to take a quick exit. So yeah, thanks. Get the microphone to you. Ja, so die Afrikaans, die vraag sal ek in Afrikaans beantwoord.
I'd like to ask if I can make an input. I understood that I would have the opportunity to make an input at this meeting as well. And it's not so much question and answer, but certainly not a debate. It's just my views having researched the issues involved. And would that be possible?
Sure, I think we can do that. But let's maybe get to the questions, actual questions first. And then when we see there's no more questions, we can give the microphone to you. Is that fine with you? Okay.
I am Mr. College CNE. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very enlightening, and I must admit that I'm undecided. But thank you very much. The question that I have is around process. And I was coming from a lack of understanding. I'm very happy to pay for something that's going to bring me a benefit. We are going to be paying the city of Cape Town. We're going to then have to rely on the city of Cape Town to pass on that money to the city. What guarantees do we have, especially in view of the history of municipalities and what they do with people's rights in this country? So we can say the city of Cape Town, yes, we have a favorable political dispensation, but there's no guarantee on that. So what safeguards do we have that our money, which is paid into the city, will find its way into the city? Thank you.
Thanks. That's a good question. So, unfortunately, the City of Cape Town is quite well known. Clean audits, best run municipality, I think, in South Africa by any metric. But to answer your question, there's a finance agreement that is concluded between the city and us. So that's an enforceable contract. We would be able to take the city to court if they didn't honor that agreement, because essentially they are just receiving or collecting those funds on our behalf, but it is the NBC's funds around the city of Cape Town. There's also this policy and this bylaw, which is described that. So, short of them being in legal default, there's no mechanism by which they may withhold funds. If something like that was to occur, yes, they want to take legal recourse. The other option could be to close the sit. So a sit can be closed by the council if a majority of the residents submit an application to close the sit. It can close the sit for any good reason, which is also included in the sit policy, and then there's another reason, another way that I don't quite recall right now. But yes, I think if the resident would then come to pass, the community would have the power to close the city immediately. We wouldn't even need to wait till the 5-year term ended. Does that answer your question? You're welcome to follow up.
It does answer my question to a certain extent. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. It's just that, you know, there's good municipalities that are paying extra and they do this and that and the other. But do we have the power to unilaterally close the city? Or does it have to be in conjunction with the city? Because the city now has a right to collect our fees or whatever it is. But do we have the power to unilaterally close the city?
The council would essentially make it. Okay, so there's two scenarios. The one is during the 5-year term that's been approved. So during the 5-year term, you would need to submit to council to be able to close the sit. But yes, council would need to approve that. So yes, you're right. There is some way that the city of Cape Town would override that. But the longest you would be stuck would be essentially to the end of the 5-year term, where all the members would have to decide for it to be started. So yes, that is a risk. I think, at least with the current dispensation, it's fairly remote risk. And I also believe there's enough legal protections. June, I think, has answered on the free. Okay. Right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I am from the city of Cape Town. So just in terms of the payment of the city. So we've been paying since 2000. With the city's been under control of the ANC, DA, ANC, DA, country DA. When the ANC was in charge of the city, the DA was against SITs, and now that the DA is in charge, the ANC is against it. But ultimately, as Julian said, we've got bylaws, we've got policies that actually protect this money. So from the city side, and I'm talking about the city supports the city improvement districts. Because the city has realized it cannot do everything on its own. Its budget is shrinking, the population is growing. I think we run about 4 million people in the Greater Cape Town So that is okay. But in terms of closing, so here's the one option is to pay majority of property owners. In other words, for the establishment, we do 60%. For closing, 50% plus one. In other words, just the simple majority. Submit this application to the city to close it. That's option number one. Number two, as a non-profit company, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a non-profit company that runs the city under your control. And then a motion is put forward on the agenda of the company to voluntarily wind up the company. In other words, 75% vote in favor of that motion. And if that motion is passed, then the city is closed. And the third option is that's where the city becomes involved. And that normally happens where there is more corruption. And we actually go through the process with it. But that's the last resort.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a good question regarding the area that the city covers. When I looked at the map, I see that Greenville, adjacent to the golf course, is not included. Just wondering if there's a reason why.
Actually, go back quickly. The green belt next to the golf course. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't actually have an answer to that. I'm not too sure. Would you mind sending us an email with that question because then we can look into it? Thanks. Dis van die twee mense. So, kom ons sê net 400 mense bother om te stem. Dan gaan ons nie net wegkom met 'n paar honderd votes nie. Ons moet 60% kry van die totale inwoners. So dit maak dit natuurlik baie moeiliker om dit actually deel te kry. Nee, nog geen dienste wees vir ons ontvang. Ek verstaan die vraag. So, clause 36 van die sitpolisies sê dat enige sekere goed wat ons wil doen, moet ons met die directeur van daai departement in die City of Cape Town praat oor wat ons wil doen. Want ons mag nie duplicate wat hulle reeds doen. So daar sal sekere goed wees wat ons dalk ekstra wil doen wat naby is aan dit, maar ons mag nie net vervang nie. So die doel is nie om dit te doen. Ek weet nog dat ek 'n fyn lyn wees tussen hierdie spesifieke ding en daai spesifieke ding. Maar ja, niemand van ons wil gespandeer wat ons straf van betaal nie.
So, my name is Rod. I'm not talking about the when it looks at the levy, the percentage of the municipal taxes. Why can't it just be a fixed fee? Because I don't understand. It's like for example, if you're in the estate, your property value might be valued more because of security, etc. So why are you penalizing? And then you're going with the city, the property prices go up, which means there's going to be an increase in your levy. So I don't understand this connection between municipal taxes and the levy. I feel it should be a fixed fee, and then it could be that they will contribute. Secondly, I feel the thing needs to be addressing the symptoms and not the cause, because we do have a law in the country. Last Easter, at the opposite Fairmont, there was a group of homeless that just moved in there over the weekend, and I
mean, there's really nothing that you could do because they were quite, they knew the fact that most people were away for the long weekend. And there's not much you can do. So for me, what are you doing in terms of the legislation to actually sort of find someone that's doing something that's wrong when place there shouldn't be? What legislation is in place? What will the list add so that we can actually remove whatever the problem is? And then for me as well, my experience with the City of Cape Town is that they just decide on a valuation, and you must just say, I mean, last year they did the valuation on me, and then they expected me to pay retrospectively from February back to September. And it's happened twice already, you know. So I don't know, I guess you can appeal the valuation, I understand, but I don't feel comfortable with the levy being linked to anything with the City of Cape Town or government. I think if it's a community project, I think that should be a fixed fee determined by the community and not the City of Cape Town.
Thanks for your questions. Okay, so fixed fee, the very simple reason is that the SIP policy and the SIP bylaw doesn't allow such a thing. So there's no legal mechanism for us to actually implement that. Even if I would want to, I just don't have the ability to do that. So that feature is just not available. And maybe the policy changes in the future, but that's what we have to work with at this stage. Property price increases, you asked how, you'll just keep paying more if your valuation increases. So we had a similar question recently on one of the groups about that. And the thing is that the budget is approved every year. So in the year with the municipal valuations increase, if our expenditure isn't expected to increase by the same amount. So let's say price inflation is 7%, CPI is 4.5%, which is the midpoint of the SARB band, then the SIP rate, the rand per million, should actually decrease. So yes, your valuation might increase, but the percentage of that you're paying will decrease. So ultimately, you're still going to be paying the same amount, the same funding, fund the same expenditure. So unless someone tries to, let's say, use the fact that valuations are increasing to increase expenditure with the same amount, your rate won't just stay the same. The objective is always just to match expenses with income. The Fairmont examples of Fairmont, I think that actually City of Cape Town has increased, or is in the process of increasing the lease of that area to Fairmont. So they're actually going to move those fences to the estate on the one side and that portion of the trees, so that's less of an area. I know your question was more general than just that specific scenario. So the lead officer that we have with the city is someone that has the power to implement legal recourse against something like that taking place. When it comes to the security services, if there's lodging or that sort of thing, then they can motivate the people to leave. So that is effective. I mean, we've been doing that for many years with the neighborhood watch and patrollers. It is effective. It's not a case of us just being able to bring up the police to do something because they might respond to something like that. Just the reality, not the theory is that we'll be able to have law enforcement and police just answer a question like that immediately, but it's just not likely. Then with the valuation, if you get unrealistic valuation also the best you can do is to object to it within the City of Cape Town's guidelines. Thank you.
Sorry, I can maybe just respond in terms of the flat rate. So yes, Julian said the city's got a bylaw policies in terms of but at the end of the day, everything must come from national legislation. So at this point, the only piece of national legislation that actually allows us to step up to improve the district is the Municipal Property Rights Act. There's one small little section 22 within that which allows the city to declare an area a special rating area, because that's actually what's going to happen. So because it's a property rights act is determined by valuations, so therefore it must be a rating of that. So it's going to provides that grant, what the 100 rand per living valuation. Just in terms of your working highway, so currently the city does the general valuation every 3 years, but the long-term vision that profits actually go from 3 years to 2 years and then ultimately do a general valuation every year to make sure that valuations are remain market related. Yes, objectives.
I just understand, I've got a number of questions, but I'll ask you maybe afterwards. 53% of the budget goes to security. Many of us, let's look at the first secondary regions. There's quite a difference between different regions in terms of the interests, etc. I live in Sondal. I've lived here for 45 years. I walk these streets every day. I sleep there every night. If 53% goes to safety, many of us have spent thousands to secure our own properties. Many of us live in small estates where we pay a heavy duty on being more secure. How, if this company is now going to deal with this whole area, how am I going to feel more safe after what I feel at the moment? Because I've not been a Catholic, I mean, I can't see that this company, are they going to bring in more bodies, more people walking around, seeing that somebody doesn't steal a bicycle or whatever? Am I going to feel more safe? Because many people, you know, the moment something gets stolen from a house or whatever, there's a focus on it. You have to see to it that your property is well secured. I think it's your duty. And if I already spend so much money just doing it like myself, going into a estate, paying over 3,000 rand a month for a guard to be there 24 hours, now I have to go and dish on between 400 and 800 rand more per month for more security. What I just want to know is, how am I going to feel more secure when this company now comes and whatever it's going to do? Maybe that first of the is what they're going to do. Whether they're going to have more people in every one of those regions, whether they're going to have more vehicles moving around, etc. Thank you.
Thanks. I think that was commentary rather than a question. It's ultimately up to you to decide, of course. So it comes back again to public safety versus private safety. We do want everyone to be able to enjoy the public spaces. You've lived there for 45 years. You might feel comfortable walking on your own around the dam and have done so for many years. Many other people don't. You know, if you maybe still have young kids at home, you might want them to be able to cycle 3D around the Sondal Dam. If you had a young wife who wanted to be able to go for a jog without you, my wife makes me walk with her even though she's got a German Shepherd, because she doesn't feel completely safe. So, yes, I will gladly admit that people not living in states are going to have a greater benefit from the safety than you that does live in the state. But I don't believe that it's just for those people. It is for the entire community, and it's for when you step your foot outside that door. Your estate should not be the jail you live in. You want to be able to freely move and freely enjoy the area. And we just really want, I want to speak from the perspective of a husband. I want my wife to be able to walk out the door and not be concerned that something's going to happen to her. And it's a very simple desire, it's a very simple want. We've had a very young girl, I think, contacted one of the steering committee members also said she doesn't feel safe just going for a run or that sort of thing, or going for cycle. Some of you in the community, lived here for a long time, it might not be that is your main desire or want anymore. For younger families, maybe it is a bigger concern. So maybe yes, in your specific case, you live in a state, you're an older gentleman, maybe this isn't going to tick all of your boxes. We want to do the greater good for the greatest part of the community, and we're not going to be able to tick every single person's every box. So again, it's going to ultimately be for you to decide. If you feel that, yes, this isn't going to increase your happiness, then vote against it. It's your prerogative. There's going to be a lot of other benefits as well around improving the dams and that sort of thing. Yes.
Real exact incidents, how many incidents? Actually, I'm talking incidents now, I'm not talking breakdowns or whatever, because this seems to me not more about your house, but it's about out in the streets.
I don't think this excludes incidents happening outside the house. This is inside and outside the house in the area. So I don't think statutory releases that detailed information. So our hands are to an extent tied as to what we can get, but I mean we can always go back to the community policing forum and see if we can get more specific statistics.
Very few people that I know of in 45 have been attacked on the street. Down to the dam.
When I first moved into Facebook, one of the first things I saw was a woman being attacked at the dam with a knife and screaming, and so it happens. I'm just going to ask if there's someone else because you've had a chance to just get the name first and then come back to you. Any other questions? Thank you.
My question pertains to the funding that you speak of, that CID will use the municipal platform for the funding. Now, that means that the money will appear, or that you own will appear on your municipal account. Now, you go every month and pay this municipal account. And when you fall into arrears, that is where the problem comes in, because you don't have to pay from the municipal account. You can pay a portion of that municipal account. Now, at the moment, there's currently no consistency in terms of the legal department of the municipality as to when they take legal action. They take legal action against some owners when they have 20,000 rand in arrears. They take legal action against some owners when they have 3,000 rand in arrears. And this is from the mouth directly from the ombudsman. So you can go to the municipality as many times as you want, and you can make an arrangement. But the only condition for that arrangement is that your municipal account would then have to be paid by order. You pay a lump sum, you pay your monthly amount, and an additional amount in terms of your arrears. And you can make that arrangement as many times as you want. Now, I'd like to know, this extra portion that you speak of, this 110 rand per million, is that going to be part of the reason why the municipal or the legal department of the municipality is not going to take legal action against you? Because if that is so, you're stuck. You're going to constantly be in arrears, and I can guarantee there are many people that are in arrears. You just need to stand at the counter every day. You need to go there on a Tuesday. You need to see how many people are waiting to see an ombudsman in the municipality to see what they can do. Or they can see that they take demand because they're in arrears. That extra portion per million, I want to know, does that form part of this? Because if you get into trouble, financial difficulty, and you want to sell your property, you are liable for municipal clearance. Does that extra amount for the CID that people are not paid? Because if there is a majority vote for this, the minority is going to be obligated, the minority is going to get that amount on the municipal account every month, whether they like it or not. And if they can't pay, because there are people in this area that are backing, whether you wish to believe so, that there are people that are well, there are people that are backing financially in this area. And even an amount of 380 rand extra on the municipal account is going to be wrong. in light of the fact that Eskom wants to escalate the electricity tariffs. My question to you is that extra CID money going to be part of why a legal department of the municipality is going to proceed with further legal action?
Thanks for the question. So I might defer part of this answer to the gentleman from City of Cape Town if he knows the answer. What I do know is that from the city's perspective, we're only allowed to embark on this process if there is a certain connection ratio in the area. I think the main message is 95% of the regulators being up to date with their municipal